First Lawrence Bank invites you to experience banking at its best. Whether you have personal or business needs, we're a full-service bank big enough to handle all of your banking needs and small enough to provide you with that personal touch you've grown to expect from a community bank like First Lawrence Bank. Looking forward to your future? That's First Lawrence Bank in Dublin and Dexter, member FDIC.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to have with me today my dear friend, Heath Taylor, who is the president of the Dublin-Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce. Most of you wonder why I even introduced him, but Heath, we're in a growing community. The last census shows that we're up to about 49,500 people in Lawrence County, and that's just our county. And as you know, being the president of the chamber, Dublin's town, and all the people, you're watching us right now in Soper and Rice from Wilkeston County and Eastman and Chester and all points in between, y'all come to Dublin for town. And you see that, but thank God, the latest census, our numbers are up.
Absolutely, and James, that's in large part too. A lot of folks put forth a lot of work. I really want to say a great big thank you to Royce Hall down in the city of Dublin. He really led that effort. We worked with them and partnered with them, but we had meetings right here in the Keene Center. Invited all of our local municipalities to come together and said, hey, let's get boots on the ground and let's get people involved and let's count our people. And now we're seeing the fruits of that labor, because we may even have some additional representation where so many people were losing representation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Royce got me involved early on because of our homeless ministry, and they wanted to count everybody. And the homeless are people, they're just like we are. They're just in bad situations. But it was amazing as we went out down the railroad track and under the bridges and different places to be able to count everybody. And I got involved in the census this year, and it was my first venture into something like that. And buddy, my eyes got wide open, you know, being involved in this. But these are just a few things, and we're going to be talking about the president's mandate today, if you're wondering what Heath and I are sitting here talking about. But before we get into that, and this is just one more reason why you should be a member of the chamber, but share with our viewers some of the other reasons. If somebody's watching us today and they're not a member of the chamber, why should they join the chamber?
Well, James, one example, you know, today is just a rainy day and it's not really severe weather, but a lot of times when we have severe weather, you know, we're an evacuation point for a lot of communities, and people, our phone rings and rings and rings when there's severe weather or any kind of catastrophic event that takes place in a community. The chamber is usually the place where people can come together and they know that the information that they're getting is reliable information, and so we are that resource for people. Another, and I could do a whole show on this. I think you've
multiple shows.
Yeah, we've got a really important election coming up in Dublin and Lawrence County, and we're going to be electing a new mayor, city council, school board folks, and we get to partner with you guys and hold a forum and let our candidates build their platforms and tell you why they're running, and allow you, our viewers, to send in your questions to TV 35 or the chamber so that you can make an informed decision there. I love next week, we got a great program, Students in Business, coming up. We're getting students from our local high schools out into the workforce, showing them firsthand what work looks like. We've got a great opportunity for folks to network and advertise at our membership appreciation luncheon coming up, and we could go on and on.
Oh yeah, and some of my favorite is and I got to throw my opinion in here, but First Friday is a wonderful place to be, and I invite people every month. I'm shot down some people come, but First Friday is a perfect opportunity to stay in tune. And if you can't come, and some people can't, we air all of our First Fridays here on TV 35, but have some really good programs. And
next month, so for the October First Friday Means Business, we have a gentleman coming over, and forgive me for not calling his name, but the Better Business Bureau.
Kevin Taylor.
Yes, and so many people wonder sometimes, I used to wonder, do they really exist? Because it seems like there's a phone number. You always get a phone number, but you don't ever get, well, he's going to be here.
He's a personal friend of mine, and he's a wonderful man. He works very hard. He's been in that position for I've served on the board a few times on the Better Business Bureau, but they are real and they do work hard. This week, we're taping this, Heath said a rainy day, we're taping this on a Monday morning, but this week, our Women in Business, I don't know how you get somebody of that caliber down here. She came before, I know, and we loved it so much. That's why I always volunteer to pour tea or something when these programs are good. Even though it's Women in Business, I really want to get in here and be a part of it. But that's really good there.
And hear her message.
Yes.
Stanley is an amazing speaker.
Amen.
Local person, of course married to Andy Stanley at North Point Church there, but she will be talking about the weight of our words, and James, you and I both know, man, that's a strong topic right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we started taping this, Heath and I always have church prior to, after, and maybe even sometimes during this telecast right here, we may be having church. But let's get to the point we're here today. But President Biden issued a mandate a few weeks ago about employers having to mandate their employees to get the vaccine. Now, this is for employers with 100 or more employees, is that right?
That's correct, 100 or more employees. And James, there are so many questions when people say, well, is that 100 employees under one roof? Is that 100 employees spread out across the country? What does it mean to say I have 100 employees? I would tell you from sitting on the phone call with the folks at Fisher Phillips, which is a national labor law firm, if you have 100 employees that are paid even in the same payroll, if they adhere to the same documents or policies or any corporate procedures, then you have 100 employees, and you need to start doing things to prepare for this mandate. We're talking about over 80 million workers, and 2/3 of our workforce will be impacted by this.
So, y'all listen close on this. This is so important. But so, if I own 2 restaurants in town, and I got 55 employees at one and 50 employees at the other, I fall under that.
You fall under that, James. And another question that has come about concerning the employees, well, what if they're seasonal workers? What if they're part-time employees? What if they work 1 day a week? Yes. If you have 100 people, if they work 4 hours a week, they count as an employee for you. So, and then there's the question, well, what if I don't ever come in the office? And there is one stipulation in there that says, in quotations, if you never come in, then you may be exempt from this. But anyone else, and most of the time, you're going to have some type of fellowship or communing with someone in the company, then you fall under these guidelines.
Okay, and all this is going to be enforced by OSHA. And what I've been reading some prior to this interview, but is it true that there could be up to a $14,000 fine per violation?
The number is exactly $14,000 per violation, which would fall, OSHA would be the one to regulate that and to oversee those penalties or those fines. Now, I can elaborate a little bit on that, and I know what we've got some great paperwork, some questions here. OSHA oversees the state of Georgia. We're one of 29 states where OSHA oversees our workforce. And the other states are what's called state plan states. And the state plan states govern their own business and industry and regulations. They also will have to come up with a policy or a mandate that will be the equivalent of the ETS, which is the Emergency Temporary Standard that OSHA is going to enact. That could start taking place as early as this week.
Are federal, like the VA, do they fall under this?
Absolutely. Anybody with 100 employees. And a great question there. Federal, personal business, corporate, franchise. I would just tell you from sitting on the call with these gentlemen the other day, if you're at 100 employees, if you think in the very near future you might have 100 employees, you probably want to start doing things to get your company, and there's some other things we'll talk about in a little bit, readiness for this. But let me say this clearly, James, I'm not advocating to say I'm in favor of what the president.
That's right.
I'm just trying to share information for people to say, this is what's coming and you need to be prepared.
And just like Heath touched on our political forum coming up, we don't editorialize. At the TV station, the Chamber of Commerce, that's why we make such a good partnership, because we just lay it out for our viewers to make an informative decision. That's what we're here for. We cast our vote, and that's one vote, and I get a vote, and that's where our vote stays. I've been asked many times, who you voting for, James? I said, well, I don't really know, and I do know, but that's just my business, you know, and being part of the TV station, you part of the chamber, we don't do that. Okay, how long have we got people with 100 more employees? How long have we got to get this done before the violations kick in?
So according to what was discussed on the call, 30 to 45 days after the mandate. Now, I would tell you, I think it's going to take a whole lot longer than that, because as soon as this mandate comes out, you're going to have lawsuits and more lawsuits and more lawsuits. Because first, like I mentioned earlier, OSHA has to prove a grave danger to be able to enact this emergency temporary standard to start with. So a lot of your state plan states, they're already taking legal action and preparing, and I'm not so sure that maybe even some of the states that fall under OSHA guidelines are not doing the same. So when the emergency temporary standard comes out, you would have a 30 to 45 day window to prepare before you might ever receive an OSHA visit. If there's someone complaining or saying that you're not adhering to the guidelines, but I would think it's going to take a little bit longer than that. But again, I would say go ahead,
get it
start
done,
doing the things that you need to do, and we'll talk about some of those things later that you can do to start preparing.
Now, I was vaccinated in January. It's just my own personal decision. Me and my family thought it was important to get vaccinated. We do live in America. You make that decision for yourself, but my wife went and laminated our cards so we would have them if we fly, or if we were in New York City, we got approved before we can go in and eat in a restaurant. So she laminated them so we could have them on our person. So my question is the employer in this situation, do they have to collect all them cards to prove it? Do they need to keep copies of them? What happens there?
So nightmare. and I would tell you, so you get to make a choice actually as an employer. There are options here, there's two. One option is to issue a vaccine mandate for all of your employees to follow, which I would tell you the labor lawyers strongly recommend, because you have this mandate, you have folks come in and show you, and yes, the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, has said that yes, the employer can ask you if you're vaccinated, and then end of conversation. They can't ask you anything after that, but they can ask you to prove vaccination. So you would come into your employer, you would show that you've been vaccinated. They would keep those files, and of course, not open to the public or anything, keep them confidential. And that's the easiest way to approach this. Or you can have weekly testing, and then you've got to provide time for the testing. You've got to get into who or when or what you test, which test you're going to use, and it sounded like just a logistical HR nightmare to try to offer weekly testing. So
who pays for the testing?
So right now, it looks like if it's going to be, and right now it would be during work hours, the employer most likely would be responsible for paying for any testing.
Okay, man, good stuff right here. We got to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
Since 1999, Stepping Stone has been working to keep you and our community safe. Our mission is to lessen the trauma suffered by individuals who have been abused or assaulted. We provide evaluation in a safe, caring environment to encourage collaboration of services for the benefit of the victim and their non-offending family members. We strive to increase the protections of victims and hold offenders accountable.
Here at Stepping Stone, you are never alone. If you or someone you know has been a victim of child abuse or sexual assault, please know we are here for help and comfort. We offer a variety of resources to help meet your needs and get you out of difficult situations. If you are in immediate danger, please call 911 or call our fully confidential crisis number at 478-595-8339. You can also reach us at our office at 478-275-9010.
Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, we're discussing with Heath Taylor, the president of the Dublin-Orange County Chamber of Commerce. President Biden issued a mandate a few weeks ago on employers with 100 or more employees. It is mandatory vaccination. Now, if you're just joining us, you can go to our YouTube channel and at TV35 WDIG. You can watch this program as many times, share it with your employees, share it with your boss, share it with whoever you want to share it with. But you can watch the show in its entirety, and we will be airing it again. But now, what should we do? I'm looking at a question here. Adopt procedures for determining employees' vaccination status. You know, it makes me think, Heath, there's going to be a lot of money involved here. You know, it's employers they're going to have to hire somebody or put somebody in that position to monitor this. It's just like at the schools right now. Clifford and Dr. Williams and Jeremy Blackstock have had to put somebody to monitor quarantine, and you know, and somebody's having to handle that. So same thing here, isn't it?
So again, and it could be an HR nightmare, but one of the things I would recommend to any HR folks right now is policies and procedures in place. Go ahead and write them. I can tell you Fisher Phillips Law Firm has some great templates on their website that are policies that you would just change out a few words in there to make it fit your company. But you need to go ahead and start letting your folks know these are our policies. This is what my expectation is of you. So if you're going to expect your employees to be vaccinated, it's good to tell them now. Go ahead, don't wait. Say, hey, look, if you're going to be in my employment, you are going to have to be vaccinated, or you're not coming to work here. You might want to start looking for employment. Or if you're going to allow them to do weekly testing, you better go ahead and start building those policies and procedures and putting them in place. And we'll get to it in a few minutes, I'm sure, because the time that you don't want to do that is when OSHA shows up at your door.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's too late.
Don't blame your employer for this mandate or these policies. Your employer's having to do this because it is a presidential mandate. It's being challenged in court, but as of right now, we have to do these things. You know, it made me think a little while ago, I mentioned we were having church before we started. What about religious exemptions?
So religious or disabilities are two things that are going to be brought to your employer. As an employer, again, that's why it's so important that right now you have those policies and procedures in place to say this is what is allowable and this is what is not allowable. I can tell you from sitting in on the call, they're going to be pretty strict with what is going to be allowed or excused. Of course, an obvious disability that you can prove with medical documentation would be honored. You know, I was asleep last night and the Lord came to me and told me I probably shouldn't get the vaccine. He may have, but my employer is probably not going to honor it.
It's not going to fly.
Now, devout, maybe whether Jehovah's Witness or some other religions that may or may not participating in these types of things, certainly something like that, if it's well known and documented that you are this person. But I would make sure you got a good case before you try to come to your employee or your employer and say, hey, I'm not doing this because. Right. Because your employer is probably going to say, good luck in the next place that you find employment.
I've already had people tell me that they will quit their job, and one of these guys has an unbelievable job. It's a job that people would be lined up to get because it's great benefits, very good pay. And I made the comment to him, I said, you would really give up your livelihood? He said, James, this is, and I'm not gonna get into his crazy reasons, you know, but I don't understand that. I just don't understand it. You know, but you know we live in a world where, you know, the government can't tell me to do this. Well, I heard the same thing when they passed the seatbelt law in Georgia. Government can't tell me to wear a seatbelt. Well, come to find out they can, because you're going to get a ticket if the state patrol or...
And you're not going to public school without vaccination either. But along those lines, I will tell you, and something else we do here at the Chamber, I've spent a lot of time in the last week calling on members, visiting with members and saying, hey, what are you going to do or how are you going to approach this? And I can tell you right here in Lawrence County, there's a divide, of course. Now, I would tell you majority of the folks that I've spoken with have said, we're gonna do whatever we have to do. As a matter of fact, there are many of them already putting policies and procedures in place. But not only employees, we have employers that have been clear with me to say, I'll close my business before I mandate my employees to get a vaccine. We've had that. So.
Wow, that's pretty strong right there. Yeah, okay. You mentioned a while ago the law firm, Fisher
Phillips.
Fisher Phillips.
Columbia, South Carolina,
Okay.
National Labor Law.
Yeah,
Office.
but you said they had templates on their website. Is this for employers who wouldn't know how to track this, or is did they answer some of these questions, which I'm asking you to answer that question, but how do they track it, and can they get these templates on that website?
Yeah, so you can go to the Fisher Phillips website and the COVID vaccine mandate page, and all of the information, everything we're discussing today actually came from the call that we had last week. Now, one other thing they said that was very vital there, James, was that OSHA informed them when we had that call last week, because of the urgency of this matter and because of all the work that had to be done, that there would be no more calls. So there's not a call this week or next week that we can sit on and say, well, here's where we are now and here's what we know that we didn't know last week. They're working that fast and that furious to get this mandate implemented. But yes, the Fisher Phillips, and I feel like I'm making a plug for them. They need to come on and join the Dublin Lawrence.
Ain't that the truth?
They were members, I can tell you, in Aiken, South Carolina, one of them, and great law firm up there that handles labor law. I'm sure maybe we have somebody here watching the show that would love to work with us and help us as well to be able to explain this locally. And we certainly
Great
would
idea.
appreciate that, to have a local law firm that would like to partner with us on this. But those templates are very good, and they cover, of course, it's a template, so it doesn't, you may have to narrow it down or tweak it a little bit to fit your specific company, but they're pretty good templates.
Where does the Department of Labor fall on this?
The Department of Labor right now is encouraging and supporting this. And then again, from a funny thing I read this week as well with OSHA, and again, it goes back to that HR nightmare. If you are under OSHA regulations, you are required to keep employee records for 30 years, even after they are not in your employment any longer. And under OSHA now, we're going to have financial institutions, we're going to have law firms, we're going to have folks that have never had to adhere to OSHA guidelines.
Okay, we have a lot of people come into our area, federal contractors, people working on industries, building new industry. How do they fall under that, and how can you track that?
So their employer.
Because they could be living in a hotel here, they could,
And again, their employer would be responsible. If I've contracted with you, then I'm counting on that you have adhered to this mandate and that you are making sure one or two things, either your employees are tested weekly or that you have implemented a vaccine mandate company-wide. And I would imagine that's probably going to be included in contracts going forward.
If I apply for an SBA loan and I go to the bank and apply for this loan, I got 150 employees. To qualify for that SBA loan, will I have to prove that I've had my people vaccinated before I can get that loan?
I would think more than likely the answer is yes, you would. And again, this is going to be for anything going forward. If you're in one of the 29 states that are not state plan states, this documentation and this mandate is pretty cut and dry to say you've got one or two options, vaccinations or weekly testing. And yes, for anything going forward to be in compliance, you're going to have to be able to prove that you're doing one of those two.
Man, there's a lot to this.
There's a whole lot to it, James, and again, I mentioned earlier, the hard part of this is, I would think a local bank or a law firm that's never dealt with OSHA, and they may be thinking right now, well, OSHA's not going to show up at my door. But let's just say you got, employees spread throughout the state and you've got disgruntled Bob or whomever, and he starts a ruckus and starts making phone calls and sending emails to OSHA. OSHA's going to show up at your door. And one of two things can happen. You can have policies and procedures and documentation and everything in place, And you can have a 2-hour OSHA meeting, or you cannot have those things in place, and you can have a 2-week OSHA meeting. And I can promise you, you don't want the 2-week OSHA.
No, I've dealt with OSHA on many occasions, but okay, we talked about something earlier, and I keep thinking while you're talking, but that's dangerous, I know. But so if I have an employee who won't get vaccinated, if I test him on a regular basis, does that get me by?
So again, it goes back to how clear you are in your company policies and in your documentation. If you have an employee and you've mandated that vaccinations are the route that you've chosen, then you have every right whatsoever to terminate that person from employment. If you've got something written that says you can be vaccinated or tested, then you can test that person. The problems you run into with the weekly testing is, well, James is tested on Monday mornings, but James is on vacation on Monday, or James was sick this Monday, or we had an emergency out in the field and James was about to walk into the room to get tested, but we had to call him out into the field, and so he didn't. And so that's where a lot of your questions come in then. What's a valid excuse that you didn't get tested? How soon do you have to be tested if you missed your test? Does that automatically disqualify you for employment if you missed a weekly test? There's a lot of questions there.
Okay, if I'm I've got 50 employees have not been vaccinated, I'm gonna send them over to to Southern Pines or at the mall, wherever they're doing the vaccinations now. Do I have to pay them for that time they take and go get vaccinated?
So my understanding from the phone call is you either have to use PTO or some type of compensation for that person if it's during regular work hours. Now, again, that goes back to what type of test you're going to do, because there's conversation about Kroger and some other places having some different tests that may be available 24 hours a day. And so you may be able to tell an employee, you've got to go get tested, and I don't care when you do it, you got to be at work from 8 or 9 to 5, but you've got to, an employer could possibly do that. I would think a good employer would provide that time for that person to be tested.
Yeah, something that's important.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna take a break so I can take a deep breath. There's a lot to unpack here, and we've got more to come. Stay with us.
My name is Jeremy Blackstock. I'm the head of school at Trinity Christian. We would invite you to come to our campus so we can show you around and discuss ways that we can partner with your family in Christian education. Our goal here is to teach the truth and to have students leave here prepared to serve others and serve God in their communities.
Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, I'm talking with Heath Taylor with the Dublin-Orange Chamber of Commerce. We've been talking about the presidential mandate, amongst other things. We've been criticized as the chamber, and I say we, I've served as an ambassador for many years, and I feel like I am part of the Chamber of Commerce and a member. But I'm a believer in, if you open a business, first thing you should do is join the Chamber of Commerce, because I believe, and I'm not asking you to comment really, but I believe if you're going to open a business in town, you need to be a part of your local wherever you're at. If you're watching or somewhere else, be a member of your chamber. Support your chamber. It has so many assets to it. But we've been criticized for continuing to meet our First Fridays, different things by different people. But we have continued in a safe way. We have less people sitting at the tables. We have the tables spaced out. You and I are sitting pretty close. We've both been vaccinated. But what say you about that?
And let me say with that, James, thank you for the question. I'm going to answer this as Heath. Maybe if I take off my chamber hat or representation, or if it's okay.
Right.
But yeah, I'll be happy to answer that. We have vaccinations available for people, James, and I know when I went to school, when you went to school, we had to be vaccinated to go to school. Some people are in favor, some are not in favor. But, I'm a pastor in addition to working at the chamber, and I fully believe that we should continue the scripture says, as we have to encourage one another. And I just find it hard to encourage if I'm at home watching my computer and you're at home watching your computer and everybody else is home watching their computer, because when the sermon's over or the message is over or whatever it is, we're usually closing it. Now there's a chat box on there if you want to do, but it's not like having fellowship in person
Amen.
with one another. The other thing that I want to refer to scripture on this is we're not given a spirit of fear or timidness. And, you know, GACCE, the Georgia Chamber of Commerce Executives meeting that's set for November, there's already conversation. Well, do we cancel the meeting? Or do we postpone the meeting? Well, when is COVID going away, James? Because I don't think it's going away.
That's right.
You're either going to be vaccinated or you're not. You're either going to get COVID or you're not. And I hate to say it this way, there's a lot of people, well, I'm scared I'm going to die. You're going to die.
We're all going to die.
One day, at
Yeah.
some point, sometime, I'm not trying to cut in line or jump at the front of the bus
Yeah.
either, but at some point you're going to die. You need to be asking the question of yourself, where am I going to spend eternity, more so than when or where am I going to die?
Amen. And amen. I agree with you wholeheartedly. What about our local legislatures and our governor of the state of Georgia? I know we are the United States of America. Was anything mentioned in this with the law firm? Can governors override this? Could they say, I'm not going to allow that, just like the mask mandate? Brian Kemp said, we're not going to do that in Georgia. So could the Governor Kemp come out and say, you don't have to do that in Georgia?
So I would always assume that federal law would supersede local or state law, but absolutely that's where all these lawsuits are going to come in, and that's why there may be a postponement or a little bit of a delay for this taking place, because you are going to have, there's no question, states, individual states are going to challenge this mandate. So the question would be then, will the government wait until all of these lawsuits are resolved before they try to enforce this, or would they go ahead and try to enforce it, even though there's all this pending litigation taking place? I know if you go to certain restaurants and businesses right now, some of them say that they are requiring you to wear a mask. Some of them say that we strongly recommend that you wear a mask. So the question would be, can you make me wear a mask to come into your business? I would say probably you can. And you should be able to. And if you want to do that, that's totally up to you. And as the consumer, if I don't want to adhere to what you're asking me to do, I shouldn't be. And of course, there's always going to be that one person that you can't tell me what to do or how to do. But I think to each its own. I do think that this mandate is going to certainly cost our businesses even more money. You and I mentioned earlier, the HR nightmare, the policies, the procedures, somebody's got to keep up with this stuff. I don't know, do you have to go as far as, you know, having a nurse on staff somewhere to, if you're doing the weekly testing? So there's a lot of questions about that.
Yeah. I got to go back to what you said, and we talked about it during the commercial break a minute ago. I got to go back to the people, not asking you who they are, but the people who said to you when you were reaching out to different employers, I'll close my business down before I'll go with this mandate. So basically in my head, I'm thinking, that's why I can't get away from it. If you've got all these employees, you're putting them out of work because of, I guess, being hard-headed. I don't know what else to call that, but my question to you is, what do you say to people like that?
Well, and so there again, James, to me, you have that right, and you're the business owner. And I would tell you that I'm okay with that if that's what you want to do. If you want to close your business because you're saying, hey, government's not going to tell me, I can respect that. I would go ahead and let my employees know now that that's what my stance is going to be. I certainly wouldn't wait. I would tell my employees, I'm never going to do this. So if that's going to be a problem for you, know that this is my intent and this is what I'm going to do. And then I can respect that person for saying, well, I'm going to close my business. Now, whether I have agree or disagree, I'll keep to myself, but I can respect. My point in it is whatever it is you're going to do, whether you're going to make them wear a mask and get weekly testing, or if you're gonna tell them if you're not vaccinated, you're not working here, be upfront with your folks and go ahead and let them know now what your intent is.
Well, I would think someone that vocal about it's pretty well told it to his employees. You know, anybody that vocal is walked around the plant or whatever saying,
Probably
they're
so.
crazy if they think I'm going to do this. But you're right. Don't leave people hanging. And someone with over 100 employees, it bothers me. It really does, because I do respect the fact they can make that decision, but you're affecting a lot of lives, a lot of kids in college, a lot of car payments.
And let me back up to you and tell you the person that one of just a very small handful of people.
That's right.
But others do share this opinion. These were not people that are currently employing over 100.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2 of them are really close and could have 100 in the near future. But in the other one, I would say would probably not in the relatively near future.
Yeah.
But here's the question to me as well, and I'm not trying to answer because you
No.
can't answer this any better than I can, but today it's 100 employees. You know, 6 months from now, is it 50 employees? 6 months from then, is it every employee? Where does that stop, or
Right.
how far does it
And,
go?
and a lot of people are going to play the numbers. If I got 105, I'm going to lay off 10 or whatever so I can stay under that. You know, and as a business owner, and trust me, I understand this, you got to make decisions for the health of your company. So I do realize that. But you'd be surprised, you wouldn't, but you'd be surprised. You're probably sitting there saying, well, this one's got over 100, this one got over. You think you can count them. You really can't, because I can tell you, well, I just mentioned one restaurant, you know, like at Cracker Barrel. They've got 100 employees. It takes a lot of people to run a restaurant. Longhorn's probably the same thing, and you can go on and on and on. So more people than you realize will be affected by this. But it does roll downhill, so to speak, and I can see employers playing the numbers, and they have to. It was just like the healthcare mandate and different things come along.
And you don't think about your banks and your financial planning institutions that are franchises. If you're a franchise, more than likely, then you're going to fall into this mandate, because you've got multiple offices across the state or even across the United States.
Yeah, and we've got them here. You know, even in town, Marsh Bank has over 100, and then they bought banks in Statesboro and Gordon and Warner Robins, so you know they're way over that number. But more than you realize, that's the whole point of this, not just picking somebody out, but there's a lot of people that have over 100.
And let's throw this in too, James, and say thank you to the people who have businesses, who are
Yes.
continuing to fight these battles and these struggles, especially our small business owners.
Amen.
Man, they're getting it everywhere you turn around, and they're having to pay ridiculous wages, and I'm just gonna say because it is.
Yeah.
That's just crazy to have to pay, you know, $15, $17 an hour
Yeah.
for people. I appreciate, don't get me wrong,
Hey.
somebody cooking a hamburger.
But an
serving a
entry-level
cup of
job,
coffee.
yeah.
But, and so when food costs go up, or when you do go to a restaurant and maybe service is a little bit slow today, a lot of them are understaffed, people are overworked, and so I ask that people would be patient and be appreciative of those that are making an effort.
Yeah, absolutely, because, and I see it so much on social network, and I have told some of these people in private, some in public, but don't blame it on the people that are working, because they are working. The people not working, I mean, you really can't say nothing to them because they're not there.
It's kind of like on
Yeah.
Sunday, most of the people you're talking to on Sunday, they
Yeah.
need to hear it, but the ones that really need to hear it sometimes aren't with you.
Yeah, and we always say I'm preaching to the choir now, and that's where I guess that comes from. But
And we all need it.
yeah, absolutely. We're going to take another break and come back and wrap things up. Stay with us.
Badcock Home Furniture and More is your home store, where you'll find great savings on new living room sets, sofas, love seats, recliners, and more. Badcock Home Furniture and More has great savings every day on bedding and bedroom sets. Shop Badcock Home Furniture and More for a great selection of dining room sets. And save every day on electronics and appliances at Badcock Home Furniture and More, 1927 Highway 441 South in Dublin. Call 275-3144 for more information, or stop by and see Wendy and Tim Sumner or any of their friendly staff today at Badcock and More Home Furniture Store, where no credit is ever refused.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to wrap things up. Let's just hit the highlights again to make sure we got what we're talking about.
I would say the long and the short of everything here, James, if you're at 100, if you're near 100, even if you're in the mid-70s or so, because I do think, and again, this is a little speculation, but this isn't going to just be 100 employees. This will probably flow all the way down through employment. But regardless, get prepared. Start now preparing your documents, your procedures. If you haven't already, start letting your employees know what those expectations are going to be, and be prepared. Can't say it enough. Be prepared to handle this mandate when it does take place.
Okay, we started on a good note talking about the chamber. Let's end on a good note here. But we have, and I just love these numbers, and I'm glad I have access to them, but we've got 100 more chamber members today than we did when the year started.
Absolutely, James. Thank you for
it.
bringing that up. And so in staff meeting this morning, our goal this year was 550 members. As of this morning, we were at 554 members. And that is partially because we have 108 new members this year already, and the other cool thing about that is our retention rate is at about 90%. So we're maintaining members while we're adding new members. So we want to say a great big thank you to the community, the support. Our ambassador program, I tell people all the time, I would put our ambassador group up against any group, anywhere, anytime. You know, we joke about a model chamber, and I'm not joking. I believe we have a model chamber and a model ambassador program here. Our board members here, and even our members here. I can't tell you the number of people that come in the Chamber of Commerce that moved into a shopping center or any location in this town, and they say, okay, after the fifth person asked me if I joined the chamber yet, I figured I probably need to come see you guys.
Yeah.
So we appreciate the support.
Be a part of the chamber. I grew up here. I was born and raised in Dublin, went to school here, and I thought I knew everybody till I became an ambassador, and then I'm looking around the room saying, I don't know her, I don't know him. Some of my best friends today, I did not know 5 years ago, and they're chamber ambassadors that we have, and you know this, there's such a bond there, and I'm starting to tear up a little bit because I'm thinking of our dear friend Eddie Schrader. I knew Tracy, but I didn't know Eddie until we became ambassadors. And he and I would cut up about that and say, you know, James, you knew my wife, or you knew me, and I did. I knew Tracy very well, but I didn't know Eddie. And thank God, thank you, Lord, that I became a chamber ambassador. If it was nothing else but to get to know Eddie Schrader. Yeah. I mean, and you know what I mean, and I'm struggling to get this out now, but, and I've got other ones like that, it's just, and I think about, and you're looking at some of the footage right now as we talk about it, I think about the day that Eddie and Zach and I came in and did the modeling in here that you came up with, and the deal was, and you're looking at some of the footage right there, but the deal was nobody would know about it. Well, you lied. Why? You lied about that because Piper McAfee filmed it, and I saw her filming it when I came in. I said, oh my God, I got a mini skirt on. But my whole point of that is the relationships, and that's what the chamber, you mentioned about church, the fellowship. That's what the Rotary Club or the chamber, God gives us, we need that social interaction, don't we?
We do, James, and I would say the chamber is the organization in town to bring people together. We're the resource information. If it's early childhood development, if
Yeah.
it's education, if it's workforce, if it's legislation, if it's infrastructure, if it's advocacy,
Yeah.
we are the one place in town that takes on any of that. And our sole purpose, I get up every day and I come here and my staff comes here today to make this a better community for us to live, work, and play. I tell people we have the best jobs by far. We never have to come to work. We get to come to work.
Amen.
We love working here in Dublin, Lawrence County.
Yeah, absolutely. Join the chamber. If you're watching us right now, you're not a member of the chamber, please join. You can be a part of something so much bigger than we are, and that's really the cool thing about it is, and I just want to name a few things. The chamber bought the 3D printer for East Lawrence High School. They're making a difference. You are. If you're a member of the chamber, or if you're not, you can be a part of supporting our schools. And you say, well, how? Be a member of the chamber, because we gave that 3D printer to East Lawrence High School. What a difference we're making in those kids' lives. It was such an impact. Now we didn't do it, but they saw over at West Lawrence, hey, we need a 3D printer. You know, and maybe Dublin, I don't know, but I know West Lawrence did. But these are the kind of things, and we can't be at all the meetings, the city council, the Recreation Board Authority, or the county commissioners, or whatever. But the chamber is a part of that. And we're in touch with our legislatures like Matt Hatchett, Senator Walker, State Legislator Jimmy Pruitt, and people like that. But those are just some of the advantages of the chamber, and I could keep spitting them off just like you can, but it's fun to be a member of such a great organization that is actually, and I know this isn't a cliche, we've said it for years, but we are green and growing by the fact over 100 new members this year.
Over 100.
That's incredible.
This year. And James, I can't can't give specifics right now, but I think we had a really huge announcement coming up in the next few weeks again that's going to concern our education system and an investment in one of the programs at our schools that is much needed here in Dublin, Lawrence County. Our good friends at Georgia Power are working with us on something that we think is going to be really, really special, and that'll be a show in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's why you should be a member of the chamber. And you better get ahead of this announcement so you're a member when they make this announcement, and you can say, hey, I was a part of that. Be a part of your chamber. Be a part of your community. Be a part of what we're talking about here. And this is only the third time I interviewed Heath. I interviewed you the day you got here. Didn't even know you, but I've told many people along the way, I guess I shouldn't say this on TV. Men have trouble showing affection, don't they? But the Bible, I was just reading about David this morning, you know, about the affection that he showed people. But I loved you from the get-go. There was a certain spirit in our room, and one thing that I loved about Heath from the get-go is when we got through doing our interview, we prayed together. And anybody that knows me is watching right now knows I pray on TV, I pray at Kroger, I pray at Walmart, I pray wherever anybody calls on me to pray, because I feel like that's what God has called us to do. And I'm talking about me and you, and I hope I'm talking about you, but those are the kind of things, and that's the kind of man that is running our Dublin Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce. Don't forget all these good things we're talking about. If you want more, call the number, 272-5546. I got it in my brain here. And people call the chamber for all kind of reasons. I guess I ought to do a show with Malia one day about, I love all the crazy, and there are some dumb questions, but, you know, because I've asked some dumb questions in my life, why I can say that, but you can get a good answer to that, or the chamber can point you in the right direction. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. It's my third time I got to interview you. Kind of turned the tables on him today. But be a part of the chamber. It's fun, it's exciting, and you get to be a part of something so much bigger than us or bigger than our community. So call the chamber, 272-5546. Number's right there on the screen. It's going to go away in just a second. You better hurry, write it down, 5546. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. Always fun. Thank you for joining us today on TV 35.